Well, good morning, folks. Good morning. It's a beautiful day here. Been raining a lot here. And waxing floors when it's raining, not a whole lot of fun. I just want to give you some tips today on some things, and these are just my opinions. Everything, I have people make comments all the time, and I think they take me across as I'm telling them what to do. I'm not trying to tell anybody what to do, because what I've done and what I share on here is just my opinion, things that have worked for me. And I'm old school. I'm stuck in my habits in a lot of ways, but I'm also up for learning new things from time to time. But I want to share a tip with you right now on waxing a hall. Okay, I have a building here that I'm waxing a whole hall, and I'm kind of blocked, out from this building. So how do I go about changing directions and waxing this hall? Well, one thing I like to do is my entry point where I'm going to go in the building every time. I like to put a rug outside to make sure my feet are good and clean, or it gives me a place to change shoes if I'm wearing just shoes to wax the floor. And signs, sometimes they're just a suggestion. I may comment on that some more and I may not.
You just let somebody try to get in here. I got my slingshot and a couple marbles. I'll ping them in the rear end. They try to get in my belly while I'm trying to wax it. Ain't putting up with it.
Now I'm going to talk about this because I use a mop bucket and a rayon blend mop. That's just the way I like to apply wax. I've used the backpack system. I've used microfiber, and I'm not totally against any of that. This is just my preferred way. I seem to do a better job when I do this because I guess I did it for so long, and I kind of make a mess sometimes when I use a microfiber, it coming off the stick and different things like that. But there again, I probably don't know what I'm doing completely on how to use one. So here's what I like to do. I like to change directions with my mop. When you hear me say loaded mop, a loaded mop is when you dip it down into your wax. It's fully loaded with fresh wax. Even though you wring it out, it's a loaded mop. And as you go down the hall, it's just like when you mop a floor with water or whatever, that mop, it gets drier as you go. You flip it over and you go a little further and it gets drier. Well, I don't like a starting point everywhere that I start. I don't want to start, what I'm trying to say is, with a loaded mop in the same place every time. If you ever stripped a floor and when you go back, you see some places where it has some wax on it and you have to reapply a stripper and you have to scrub some more, and it seems to be heavier in those areas. Well, a lot of time that is because somebody started waxing at the same point every time with a loaded mop. Now, there's not a way to completely 100% stop, heavier spots than they are others with a mop system. Now, a microfiber backpack system on that to have consistent, even coats. And I've actually used a mop system several years ago that it had a push button on it, and you could be continuously putting wax on the floor when your mop was if it started streaking or you wanted to keep it loaded a certain level as you was mopping. You never had to stop, you just went. So, but what I'm showing today, because probably the biggest percentage of custodians out there that wax use the mop bucket system. So here's what I like to do. This was my ending point when I started waxing the last time. So what I did is I stopped, I kind of got a reference point. I stopped at this line, if you see my toe right there, and I didn't apply any wax here because I wanted my wax to stay inside the building. I wanted to stay at the building temperature. I didn't want it sitting outside, getting bugs in it or anything like that. So this was my stopping point. So this time, this is going to be my loading point, and I'm going to wax out so far, then I'll flip my mop and I'll keep going. Okay. Then when it gets time to load my mop again, all right, this line right here would have been my loading point the last time, changing directions, going back toward the door where I just came from, okay? To this side of that line would have been where I would have been getting out to the end of my mop after I done flipped it over, because my loading point would have been up yonder at that third door on the left by those trophy cases. All right. Now, that being said, this will be my loading point this time, going this direction. And I just stop here. Mop will be getting drier. Loading point. All right, a big foyer area like this right here. I like to change directions as much as possible. So how do I go about changing directions with this? Well, my first coat, I started at the doors and I came this way, came like to the water fountains. That's my reference point, okay? Come to the doors. If I split this, unless I went all the way across, sometimes I'll walk all the way across. Just depends. All right, well, I could wax that way and make that my exit point of the building, but I really didn't want to do that. So my loading point, the next time, I would just change directions at this office door and come across this way, okay? On this wall. Then the next time, I would just flip around and make this wall my loading point on coat 2. Coat 3, I would start back this way. That way, I try to keep everything as even as possible. When I do edges after my first coat, I try to do it with an unloaded mop. People don't walk right against the wall. Okay? So what I do is I'm coming down my hall.
Hey, Coach Bob, what you doing?
So the next time I put my coat on, I will start at that reference point where I ended. Then I'm going to end up back down the hall where I'm fixing to start. I hope that makes sense. Oh my goodness, you're probably like, that was the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life. Well, sometimes I'm not real good at explaining things. And I lost my train of thought a little bit because hear them people that was talking in the background? They come in on me. Get off my floor. I thought I had somebody out there watching to make sure nobody gets in this building. What is he doing? He said he had a slingshot and a couple of marbles. Of course. Look at this. I think he's asleep or daydreaming or something. What? You know 2 people walked in the building, right? Yeah, they walked in.
No! Ain't nobody come in here. Ain't no way to get past me.
Well, they did. I'm paying you $2 an hour. You fall asleep. I mean, my goodness, you can't find good help nowhere.
I'm sorry. It won't happen again. I promise. I got me some coffee. I'll stay awake. Okay?
And I like to have wax at somewhere in my building that I'm working, because if a bucket gets empty, you got to fill it up. So I keep me my wax right here at the custodial closet. And before I get started here in a minute, I'm going to fill my bucket back up and get it ready to go. So now that I got my last coat on, instead of leaving that bucket sitting in the hall at the door, I'll just bring it on outside. You'll clean it up while this last coat dries. So I hope that made some kind of sense to you on the direction change in a hallway. That's just my opinion, and it's always worked for me. So check this floor out that looks like a piece of plastic. And have a great day. And like, subscribe, and enjoy the channel. I do believe you can read the bulletin board in the floor. Pachow! I love terrazzo, y'all. Golly bum. Love terrazzo. It just always does. Beautimous. 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 Boom!
on floor right there, it looks like a piece of plastic.